Hello and welcome to the Woman's Angle. Today we have a story from Fox News about the continuing resolution that's about to go through Congress. This is happening to avoid a partial shutdown of the government. We have a few questions, and no one seems to be asking or answering any of them. But we will do our best to get that done today. But first,
Have you noticed that men and women approach news in different ways? Men tend to think about how the news affects the world, while women tend to think about how the news affects them and their families. Here at TWA, we bring a lady's perspective to news and politics. We seek out stories that are trending in the news and give them our own unique spin. And as a reminder to our listeners, we encourage you to like us on all of our social media accounts. We have become a little bit more active and would love to engage with our listeners. Also, please review our podcast. It moves us up in the algorithms and helps more people to find us. Well, let's get right into it. Uh, Before we start today, we do have a quick update on what is happening in Israel. Last week, Trump said he would stand with Israel and do all that we can to get their hostages back. This week, Israel shut off power to the Gaza Strip. That alone is interesting. They control the power in Gaza. Why? Without Israel, Gaza would be in the Stone Ages. Let's talk about it just a little bit.
yeah, just a little quick tap on this. So I don't understand that. If we were at war with Canada, I would think we wouldn't be supplying them power.
Right.
It's like
Or,
that's the
or vice
first
versa.
step. Before you kill anyone or blow anything up, yeah, we're turning off your power.
Right. And yet
Step A.
Israel is over here supplying supplying power to the terrorists, and they're the bad guys.
Yeah. Well, they're always going to be the bad guys. That's just the way it is. I just thought that that was a particularly interesting update, but it's also worth noting that even with all these chances, the hostages has still not been returned. And you have to wonder what exactly they're thinking at this point. They certainly aren't thinking about any of the lives of the Palestinians or protecting anyone. They're just playing games.
Hmm.
And if you play dumb games, you win dumb prizes. Like, this is just ridiculous at this point. Let go of the hostages. And I know why they don't want to do it because most of the hostages are dead. And the ones that are still alive have been
Yeah,
so brutalized and starved that they don't want to reveal their condition to anyone.
right. Yep. Better to keep it unknown than let the world see what they've done.
Keep them for another few weeks and try and fatten them back up. Like, I'm not really sure, but sadly, the world doesn't care that they've done terrible things to these hostages. I don't know exactly how they justify it in their minds, these silly college students that only know half of the story or only care about half. But whatever bad things happen to Israelites or anyone else that just happened to be hanging out in Israel, they deserve that. That's what they deserve. They deserve to be kidnapped, tortured, and brutalized in any number of ways because they were just there.
Hmm.
Because they were across the other side of the line.
That's what they believe. They're wrong, but that is what they believe.
And they're stupid, and I'd like to slap them all, but unfortunately, I'm not all of their mother.
Well, on to cheerier
Someday.
topics.
That maybe don't make us so angry? Okay, no.
Not really, because we're going to come back home and talk about continuing resolutions and, the national debt and why we keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And I just can't even. Anyway, so let's start with we'll Barney style it as we said in the previous episode. What is a continuing resolution? Well, a continuing resolution is a temporary spending bill that allows the federal government operations to continue while final appropriations have not been approved by Congress and the president. So basically, that's a bunch of words that say we've spent all the money that we borrowed previously, and now we need to borrow more in order to keep the government running.
Mm-hmm.
So we've hit our debt ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if this is going to go through or not. I think that the Democrats are going to think we're not spending enough with it. There's going to be Republicans, honestly, very few Republicans that think we shouldn't spend it, do it because we're already spending too much money. And then there'll be the majority of Republicans that do want to pass it. But we don't have that big of a, like, there aren't enough.
We don't have a very big majority right now.
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
need all the
So unless,
Republicans, not we, because I don't agree with this. They need all the Republicans to stand on the same side. Our majority is so thin that we need everybody. And
so if they don't pass it, what is your fix to this problem?
my fix, my personal
Yeah.
fix,
So if they don't pass the spending bill by Friday, then we have a government shutdown, a partial government shutdown. What is your measure of fixing between now and then, if not passing a
between
spending
now and
bill?
then, because we have waited until 4 days out, which we always seem to
Yeah.
do, I don't know that
Well, it
there
was
is a fix.
Saturday. I think that they got the bill or the spending
Okay,
budget
fine.
or whatever on Saturday. But
six
still,
days out, which is just a
they've had
stupid way to
6 weeks.
govern.
Yeah.
I don't think that there is a fix. I think that we wait till this is what we do every time. We wait till the very last minute and then we shove down a bill to keep the government open. Personally, my personal feeling on this, I I'm not against a government shutdown. We need to shrink the size of the government. And if it's up against a government shutdown, then do it. I care deeply about keeping the government open, but if closing the government or shutting down, partially shutting down the government is what needs to happen to make us live within our means, then that's what we need to do. I don't
Mhm.
agree with kicking the can down the road. So I guess I don't have a solution, except that maybe we should start thinking about this more than a week
In
before.
advance. Yeah, exactly. So my thought on it is that we should pass it and really get down to business before September, which is how far this is going to be pushed out, which really isn't that long, but it's longer than 5 days. So, like, by figuring it out now, I mean Saturday. They should start writing something up to try and working towards actually accomplishing something besides just pushing through another spending package in September.
And
I think that with the amount of time that the Trump administration and that these particular Congress people, like this Congress, has had, it's only been 6 weeks, that it hasn't been enough time yet for them to really accomplish slashing spending.
and I would
That's just my thought
concede
on it.
this particular continuing resolution. I would I could get on board with that. But if they do it again in September, shut
I
it down.
know.
Shut it
I'm going
all
to be so
down.
mad.
And
Yeah,
I would,
absolutely.
you're not wrong that this Congress hasn't been in session very long. They haven't been elected for most of them, some of them for that long. So I can concede that,
Hmm.
okay, we passed this one just because they haven't had the time. But darn it, on Monday morning, we bet we better be working to get it so that
Yeah,
we don't
yeah,
have to do
exactly.
this again in
You know what?
September.
They get paid enough to start on Saturday. That's my
Okay.
opinion.
I've said in previous episodes that we need to have them working around the clock. You make 147,
Yeah.
$174,000 a year. Get working.
Yeah, but most of them end up somehow magically making millions during their
Yeah, isn't
time.
that
I don't know
amazing?
how, but they are making a lot of money.
So
Maybe
I
take a
could get
closer look at
behind
that.
them working around the clock for the next 6 months. Earn
Right.
your paycheck.
Right. Let's get this done, people. But what will happen? So let's look at what will happen if there is a partial government shutdown by, and I think it's this coming Friday. So government employees who are in a needed job, what's that called? Uh, the
Uh,
like the people we can't
it's
live
not called
without.
essential. Um, it was
Oh
essential
no.
during the pandemic.
But it's basically essential. The essential people. So your police, your firefighters, your people that keep on shipping our bullets and ammunition overseas, like those people, they get to keep on working but not keep on getting paid.
Right.
That's really exciting. And then all the people who we can live without for a time, they just get furloughed and they get to go home and take a vacation, an unpaid vacation. From what I understand, I have less knowledge of the unneeded people, except to ask the question, why are we employing people that aren't really needed? But anyway,
Right.
they get to go home and take an unpaid vacation, and that's very nice, I'm sure, for
Well,
those
except that
people.
you don't get paid.
I
I
hope they have some kind of savings. But at least they don't have to work. I know last time they said that people got all their money back from being uh
furloughed.
from having to work even when they weren't getting paid. But I don't know, the whole thing seemed really fishy to me.
Hmm. And it is. The ones that they send home aren't unneeded. They can just delay their work. And what
Right.
happens is these
Right.
government services don't end up getting done. So this slows down things for everybody. Certain aspects of the government will be unavailable if there's a government shutdown because the people who do
Right.
those things aren't working, they're sitting at home. And so,
So some things like social security payments are paid automatically, like it's done by an automatic system. But if this week you got $769 and last week and you usually get like 870, then there wouldn't be anyone for you to call because those
mhm,
people would be furloughed
right.
or
So,
sent home.
and if you have like a new social security thing that you need done, that would have to wait until the government isn't shut down anymore. Only
Right.
automated services would continue. So it would definitely slow down being able to get things done through the government. And those
And
furloughed
it would cause a
employees,
backlog.
right,
Yeah.
those furloughed employees may or may not get paid when they come back. So, really, what a government shutdown does is it just delays everything, but it saves the government nothing. Federal employees who do have who end up being furloughed end up or they get their back pay at the earliest possible date, regardless of whether or not they're within their pay period. So when they come back to
Huh,
work
that's just
after
crazy.
after a shutdown, they do get their pay. So the government saves
I
nothing.
can't believe that. So they've
It's
been doing nothing and they
right.
still get their money?
And I mean, to be fair, it's not their fault they're doing nothing.
I
They
know,
would
but that's
happily
really
have gone
annoying.
to work. That's not, I mean, if the government shuts down for 6 weeks, this would make people lose their houses. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, that wouldn't really be fair either. I think
What's the
that
longest? I feel like we had a really long one back there a while ago.
we had one during Obama's presidency, I believe, that lasted about 3 weeks.
Was it 3 weeks?
I think
Wow.
so. I can look that up.
And then they just passed something. Basically, from what I understand, they just passed something at the end of that 3 weeks that wasn't too dissimilar from what they were trying to pass at the beginning. And yeah, just wasted 3 weeks worth of
Hmm.
time. It's crazy.
It is.
Again, if we ran our house the way that Congress runs the government, we'd be in so much trouble. Like just constantly borrowing more money that we can't ever hope to pay back. And it really just frustrates me so much that people don't, the money is so much, like they've
Hmm.
spent so much money that it seems you can't understand it. Like you can't put the zeros in there
Right.
and like have it be some kind of understandable number. It's longer than a phone number.
Yep. Okay, just to break in real quick, there was a 21-day shutdown during Bill Clinton's presidency in 95, 96, and then there was another one 16 days during Obama's presidency in 2013. And then there was a dispute over the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. And that was the longest, a 35-day shutdown in 18 and 19.
I knew it was a long one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
just crazy.
yep. So all those people who were considered quote unquote essential had to keep working during that time, and everybody else in the government got to go home.
Yeah. And just for a little thought about that, there were still people in Iraq and Afghanistan at that time that just stopped getting paid. It's not like
Hmm.
they got to go home.
Right.
So, yeah.
And
And, and people can point and say, well, this is, Congress's fault. This is Republicans' fault. This is Democrats' fault that this is happening or that uh, people stop getting paid or the government shuts down. But really, it's because they don't come up with a solution.
right.
They have months to do so and no other occupation, really. They have an occupation, but they aren't doing it most of the time. Like, I don't know what they do. I feel like they just spend all their time trying to get reelected, pretty much.
Yes. Yes, they do.
Yeah,
They
that
don't show up
really
to vote.
annoys
They
me.
don't show up to, you know, argue on the House floor. They just try and get reelected.
Yeah, it's always some kind of political stunt. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, your political career is a personal thing. Like that's your personal problem. You don't bring that into work. Okay, you leave that at home. No one cares about your political career here. All we care about is the work that you're supposed to be doing that
Right.
they
And
just never seem to.
passing a budget is kind of a big part of that, and not one that they spend enough time on.
Nope, got to agree. So, to be clear, my opinion is that Trump hasn't had enough time. Like, Trump and this Congress and this government haven't had enough time to hash out anything, but that by September, they do. They have. They
Hmm.
better. They better have something by then, or I don't know what's going to happen. I Republicans are going to revolt. Like I just don't see them being able to push through another continuing resolution in September
I hope not.
because I think the only way it's going to go through right now is if they say, well, we haven't had enough time and we need more time and to fix this or whatever. With the Republicans, there's a few holdouts, as far as I know right now, and it's not many. I would say it's two, maybe three,
Yeah, that's what
that
I've
are
heard as
saying that
well.
they're not going to vote for it. But next time, I feel like there'll be more, a lot more,
Right.
and that they'll be much more steadfast. So
And
hopefully
if, I
they can
mean,
get this done.
Trump ran on shrinking the size of the government.
Exactly.
So if he gets from here to August and he hasn't done that to the point where we can pass a budget, and it doesn't have to be a tiny little budget. I mean, it can still be a pretty big budget, so long as each continuing time that we do it, it gets smaller. So that by the end of his presidency, we are living within our means. And
Here's hoping.
I, like I said, I am willing to concede this continuing resolution. Fine, pass this one. He's only been in office
Fine.
6 weeks. We'll take it. But if by September they haven't figured out how to fix this, then they don't have my
Heads
support
will
anymore.
roll. Yeah. Things are going to really go downhill for Trump and that administration if they haven't gotten anything figured
Right.
out by then.
And
And
I
you know what?
imagine
They
they
don't have
will.
to have everything figured out, but they better have some pretty big cuts.
Right.
And yeah, we'll just see what happens. I'm actually really looking forward to what happens because I think I have hope. Right now, I have hope. So we'll
As do
see
I.
how that shakes out in the next
And
few months.
right. I
I'm
am.
I'm always going to be willing to say he screwed up. And I think that
Hmm.
that's a big problem among Republican talking heads. And not just talking heads, like
Yeah.
the middle of the road people as well. A lot of times will be like, I can't believe you voted for Trump. I I don't know exactly what these people think is better than Trump, but yeah, I hate to think of what we'd be looking at right now if Kamala were our president.
Right.
Like what then? I don't
Right.
know. The
They
never Trumpers I don't really get. Like that doesn't seem like a very good leg to
let's
stand on to me.
let's go back to November 1st and look at our options. What did we have to choose from? And if you're a never Trumper, then you voted, no matter who you voted for, it was a vote against Trump. And
Right.
that was stupid, first of all, because your other option was somebody who was going to continue to run this country into the ground. And I am willing to give Trump time to figure out this mess. You know, everybody, whenever a new administration comes in, they always say, oh, look at all the mess he inherited, and look at all the mess Biden inherited from Trump, and look at all the mess, it's fine. You inherited a mess, whatever. I mean, Biden inherited a pandemic that
Yeah.
we now have some answers on that we didn't have then. Uh, and Trump inherited 4 years of open borders and wasteful spending. And I'm willing to give him time. I was willing to give Biden time to fix it too. He didn't, but
Yep.
I was willing to give him time. I'm willing to give any
I
new
just had less
administration
hope.
times.
I had less hope that
Yes.
he would do anything to fix it.
Yes. Um,
But here's
I
hoping.
I am
I still have
hopeful.
hope.
I do. Uh, that Trump is going to do something about what we have going on right now, and I am willing to give him time to do it. And if a continuing resolution is going to do that, even though I'm not in favor of them and I hate them, and I'm willing to just put up with it for another 6 months. But by the next one, you
Right.
guys better have this figured out.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, guys, I think that that's all we've got for today. You can also find us on Facebook, Rumble, and X at The Woman's Angle. You can find us on Instagram at The Woman's Angle TWA. Please review our podcast and recommend us to a friend. Have a story you'd like to hear us discuss? Send us a message on our social media accounts. We will try and work it into a future episode. See you next time.